Hey everyone, in this video I wanna share some comments regarding this idea about hard RPGs, but it can be extrapolated to other genres. The main objective here is to think, to have a discussion regarding some dumb beliefs about hard games. And no, don't get me wrong, I don't wanna make fun of anyone nor anything like that, but place things on the table. So yes, I'll talk about hard RPGs, about certain perceptions and details like that, so you can check the timestamps in case there's something that piques your interest. And following this same idea, next week I wanna share some hard RPGs. Now the whole discussion here began at the office. I was talking with some young people regarding games, like Battlefield Seeds, Shinobi and things like that, when the RPG genre came, and this person explained that he doesn't like turn-based systems, but that he wanted to try something like action games. So I started explaining some of the general differences between Western and Japanese approaches. The thing is that when I started recommending games to get into that particular subgenre, someone heard me when I said that Bloodborne is a good starting point. Somehow this comment irritated this person a lot, and practically told me that Bloodborne was a terrible video game to get into action RPGs, primarily because of its difficulty. Subsequently, this heated the conversation because on one side people defended that game, while others agreed that it was too hard. While the discussion was going left and right between elitism, the kinds of ARPGs to recommend, this topic about difficulty and so on, I started thinking different questions like, what is a hard game? Do I enjoy a good challenge? Since when do I enjoy these kinds of games? Do I feel superior because I am able to finish them? Are we getting lazy or easily frustrated because of hard games? To me it was important to set a kind of common ground, like how can I measure if a game is hard, easy, normal, impossible and things like that. I believe that when we talk about difficulties, it is something quite subjective, whether we like it or not. Some old school RPGs were really easy, some others not so much, and others were simply overwhelming. In easy terms, to me, a normal game is the one where you don't have to farm but few times in the whole journey, considering we are talking about traditional RPGs. For example, Chrono Trigger. The first time I finished this game, I remember that I farmed a bit just to defeat Lavos. Aside from that, I believe the whole journey was perfectly manageable, even the DS entry with those special bosses and so on. Super Mario RPG is a really easy game. I finished it when I was really young, and I didn't know the language. And the 7th Saga is simply obnoxious. This game is merciless and unbalanced just because someone thought it was a good idea to mess with some settings. Those could be my simplistic definitions about difficulties. However, in my case, I grew playing quite complicated games, trying and trying countless times to finish them. For example, Super Ghouls and Ghost is a game that I was able to finish after something like 6 months of trying and trying. And most people who were around me who also played these torturous entries developed a kind of callous for these video games, that for us it was normal that we had to try certain stages many times. And yes, I won't deny that when we were young we also developed a kind of ego, like I finished this challenge, or that game, or that other thing. In a certain way, gatekeeping, as some people explain nowadays. But that was well over a decade ago. Right now, I look at some of those challenging things I did back then, and I wouldn't do them again. However, this superiority complex in human beings is much more common. I mean, oftentimes there is a predisposition to have this superior feeling, and it can be because of money, job, your significant other, etc, etc. Beating hard games is just another excuse to feel superior for some reason. In any case, for those who haven't seen that video, this is what I am talking about. Back in 2015 there was a challenge in Dust 514, where whomever beat the most enemies had a chance to name some weapons. Yeah, I don't wanna go over all those stressful moments ever again, or at least not the whole freaking day for 3 days in a row. Now, I talk about difficulty in this way because there is a balance that has to be kept in mind. There are healthy challenges, and then you have dumb me doing these things. And here don't get me wrong. Nowadays, I share some ideas like the comments new bros should ignore. To me, the idea while playing a video game is to have fun, and if that means I am playing in easy difficulty, then so be it. Easy it is. I don't mind what someone thinks about me. However, I do not entirely agree when people also ask for easy difficulties in games that they don't have easy difficulties. For example, from software video games. They have been clear why they do that kind of games. Something similar happened with Shin Megami Tensei 3, when the series started to become slightly more popular, and not so long ago with the Silk Song. I mean, if we were talking about Metal Gear Solid, maybe it would be a good idea. I mean, the thing is a movie for games that can be finished in like 4 or 5 hours, and yes, there is a very easy difficulty there. Now, this is where my parental self comes and says, Sonny, it is important to challenge yourself from time to time. Then again, there is a difference between really complicated challenges and a healthy one, where you can become much more resilient. I know some people may not believe this, but challenging yourself trains your brain, because it learns to choose, remember, deal with frustration, plus many other cognitive functions. In a certain way, the quality of life in some games have turned us into lazy people, just waiting fast food to be served. And while sure, sometimes I enjoy taking things easy, it is also important to train that callus we developed back in the 80s or 90s. Not everything in this life is going to be solved by brute forcing your way. Sometimes you have to be strategic, like taking a step backwards to check what are your cards to play, and change strategies if needed. Yes, I won't deny that Bloodborne is a challenging game, but it is far from a terrible way to get into the genre. There are countless action RPGs I would never recommend, because they are generally obnoxious, but Bloodborne isn't one of those. Almost every boss in the main story can be cheesy if you use items. The thing is that we do not take the time to understand what we are doing, and that happens to me too, like you just arrive, try to be the boss, and it doesn't go well. But here there are different ways to look at those moments. Either you let frustration take the worst of you, or you decide to try something different, attempt things with other tactics, weapons, ideas, I don't know. I enjoy to play these hard games because they give me perspective, and as someone who likes to share these bits of knowledge, it is important to understand the difference between really complicated things and challenging but manageable ones. I hope this video motivates you to try a challenge. Then again, a trial for yourself, not to satisfy people out there, but so you can grow more as an individual, and in this case, as a player. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.